So as Mary mentioned, our world is really getting more complex. Our resources are very tight. We really have to see how technology can come in to solve some problems, in an exponential manner. Okay, so I'll just give two brief examples of what we're trialing at under the Smart Nation. Okay, so one is a health care example. So telehealth is one of the things that we're trialing. This is also with NUH, where we were trialing with the heart patients. So I'm sure you all know that there's bed crunch in hospitals. You get some patients having to sleep along the corridors. Yeah, so bed crunch is really quite an issue. So here we are trialing where the hospitals let the patients go back home, to monitor themselves from home. So there will be devices to track their heart rate, their blood pressure, and all this is being monitored remotely in the hospital. Yeah, so in that sense, it helps really to solve part of that bed crunch problem, because the patients do not have to stay in the hospital. The doctor, because they have the information about the patient, when the patients do have to come down to the hospital, they have a shorter diagnosis time because they already have that information with them. So with that constant monitoring, hopefully there's also lower readmission rates. Another initiative that we are trialing is a smart home initiative, where we are trialing, not just about the home being connected, but even the environment being connected. Yeah, so the Jurong Lake District is our Smart Nation test bed. So we put various sensors around Jurong Lake District, and we do various trials there. Yeah, so one trial is the smart bin. So we actually put sensors in the dustbin, to detect, so if the bins are maybe half or three-quarter filled, it will alert the cleaners to come and clean it, rather than coming at a regular time. And the other example, which actually you will already see in some mature estates, where there are a lot of elderly, like in Toa Payoh. So you notice the traffic light. For some of them, they actually have an extra sensor. Yeah, so you can tap your senior citizen card. Then the traffic light will actually hold for a longer time, because they know that an elderly is actually crossing the road. Yeah, so these are really some examples of how we're using technology to make the life more comfortable for elderly. Could be for the people with special needs. Maybe it will also show you like where are the ramps around the area, so that the wheelchair bound, they will know where to move to. Yeah. So this shows you, some of the examples of how Smart Nation tries to, make the life easier. So really, all this is powered by, some of these buzzwords that you've been hearing. So Smart Nation is really about big data. We use a lot of data to help us make better decisions. So in Jurong Lake District, there will be various sensors. Like I talked about the smart bin, there are the sensors in the bins. Wearables. Yeah, I think quite a lot of you will be wearing things like Fitbit, your health tracker. Yeah, so really with all this, there's a lot of data being collected. Yeah, so coding, making, as we move towards this Smart Nation, we do need people who have that capability to think creatively, want to build things, have the resilience to also try things, and make things work. Yeah, so really it's also about developing the capability of the people to want to create new things. Okay, so what does Smart Nation have to do with learning? Okay, just last year, we also launched this Infocom Media 2025. It's a master plan that charts out how Infocom Media can be used in various sectors. Yeah, so you can actually download the report over there, Infocom Media 2025. There is actually a segment on how technology can be used in education. So my next few slides, I will give a short description about some of the things that we are already currently trialing. And they are written in the Infocom Media 2025. Okay, so as I said, I will share about what we are doing from preschool all the way to adult learning. All right, so for preschool, Yeah. As Gary also said, the 21st century skills, you really need to build our people to have the problem-solving skill, collaboration skills, and for the smart nation, really that creating, making skill. Yeah. So for our kindergartens, last year we tried out with 2 kindergartens where we brought in technology-enabled toys. So you can see here, this is a B-board. Okay, so B-board on top, it has various buttons. It has a forward, turn left, turn right, and a go button. So you can just imagine on this grid mat, right? The child, you can tell the child, okay, so the B is on this square. How would you move it from this square over to that square over there? So the kid have to think, okay, I need to go forward, forward, turn left, turn right, forward, and it will reach the square over there. So yeah, so the kid actually needs to have that planning skill. When we talk to the teachers, they said that, wow, that is the very powerful part about it. They need to plan. After they plan, right, when they press go, then they will see immediately whether has their plan worked out. So then if it doesn't work out, hey, I didn't get it, let me try again. So we see that, it builds that resilience in the children. Okay, the other tool, this other toy is called Kibo. It has a similar concept. So you see, these are wooden blocks. Yeah, so the blocks also have various instructions. Also turn left, turn right, but it has other features as well. Okay, so this is the robot. Okay, so what happens is that you place these blocks in a sequence. Then as they scan it, after that when they put this robot on the floor, it would follow the instructions. So you can say turn left, turn right. It even has sensors. So you can say wait for clap, clap. Then it will do a spin. Or you can say, oh, when it is in the dark, then it would light up. So the children are even learning about sensors, how they can interact with sensors, how they can sort of control the robot, such that it does what they want. So really it is developing that sequencing skill in the children. And there has been research done in the US, Tufts University, who said that when the children who has a sequencing skill actually even has a better reading comprehension skill as well. So all these are interrelated. And you can see these toys, they are done in a group. So the children will also learn how to interact with each other. They may fight, but it also develops that, how do you resolve that, how do you negotiate to, it'll be my turn now. And in fact, the keyboard, normally one person will be the one to gather the blocks together, and then another one will scan. Then after that, hey, then they will discuss what happened. So really, there's a lot of social interaction skills required in these toys. Okay, so really it is about inspiring the young children to play and make with technology. Okay, the other area is robots. Yeah, we are also trialing putting in robots into preschools. So this one, just to backtrack on the previous one, the previous Playmaker program, I first tried with 2 schools. Now we actually introduce it to another 160 preschools. That's only 10% of all 1,600 preschools in Singapore, yeah. So it has gone to quite a lot of preschools this year. For this one, we are just starting the trial, so we are trialing it in 2 preschool centers. Okay, so these are the 2 robots. Pepper is about this high, this tall, and now is about this short, yeah. So they have different features, yeah. Pepper cannot, Pepper's legs, it can't exactly move, it can roll around. Yeah, but now it's a bit more nimble. So we really want to trial how different types of robots can be used to complement the learning in the classroom. And there has been also some research that says that they can help in promoting more collaborative play and also help in the interactive storytelling. Yeah, we are in fact right now in the lesson 2. Yeah, where the robot tells the story of the hare and the tortoise, and the learning objective is actually about learning about emotions. So what are the emotions that the hare and the tortoise are going through? Yeah, so the robot will be the one to tell the story about the hare and the tortoise. So they will also animate, they will gesture. Yeah, and along the way they will also ask questions to the children. Yeah, and the children will interact with it. So the studies are also showing that with a robot, actually the children, they tend to respond more readily to the robots because they see it as a learning companion. Yeah, so really, as the robot asks questions, we even see the shyer ones, wanting to answer the questions. So it is really it becomes more like a plaything for the children, Yeah, so these are some of the positive effects that we are seeing, okay, when we are introducing this to children. Okay, then moving on to the older kids. Okay, so Smart Nation, just now one of the buzzwords is also Internet of Things. So Internet of Things really is about different devices connecting to each other, talking to each other. Yeah, so as we're seeing that, with a smart nation that has lots of sensors around, a lot of data around, we feel that we really need to prepare our students to be ready and comfortable to live in such an environment. So that's why we introduced the Internet of Things to 5 pilot schools, 2 primary schools, and 3 secondary schools. So what exactly we did was to introduce certain sensors to the schools. Yeah, things like temperature sensors, humidity sensors, could be soil sensors to measure the soil moisture, soil pH, and also weather station. Yeah, so really the intent is for the students to have ownership of these sensors. So they will come up with the hypothesis to see, what is it I want to test? And they will set up the experiment themselves, and they are also able to see the information real time. In fact, in secondary school, for geography, one of the things that they are supposed to learn is how do you handle sensors, how do you read data. Yeah, but the current constraint is that, they have to hold the sensor and then stand under the hot sun maybe 3 times a day. Yeah, cannot stand too long because, scared they get heat stroke. Yeah, so 3 or 4 times a day. But the number of data they get is only 4 data points. But this one, because we place it out in the open, and it's collecting data every minute, they can really see the various patterns that's happening. Yeah, so in fact, okay, I don't have the chart there, but one of do you remember around October last year, there was one night, where our PSI shot up to 400. Yeah, so Bishan Park Secondary, that's one of our pilot school. When they went back to school, they suddenly saw, hey, the temperature also suddenly spike up, CO level also spike up. At that time, they don't have particulate sensors yet. Yeah, then they saw, hey, actually, the PSI actually affects temperature and CO level. Yeah, so it's like immediately it's a learning moment for them. Yeah, so really it is about getting them to see the real data, relate it to the real environment, and in fact maybe even try and solve the problem in the school. All right, so that is one of the trials that we are doing. Sorry. Okay, next is learning analytics. Okay, and now we can solve Gary's maths problem. Okay. So learning analytics, we try different, we have different trials on learning analytics. Okay, so this particular one is about where you can browse the data about your learners. So you can collect different types of data. Okay, so it could be survey data from parents, from the students. You can put in their CCA data, their academic data, and then it would form a chart for you where you can easily browse through. So let's say from LLI, you want to go deeper into, what are the type of awards, what are the type of community work that he does, or maybe I'm a HOD of maths. I can then zoom in, okay, so the whole cohort, what's the maths cohort like, then I zoom in, okay, maybe this class, the maths data and all that. It allows us to give a very good way of browsing the data, and it can also come up with certain alerts for you. So for this school, they are using it to also sort of group the students. They try to develop their students into different areas like skilled communicator, holistic thinker, community builder. So there are certain different measurements for the students to develop in these areas. So with this tool, they are able to see that, okay, these are the group of skilled communicator. And in fact, these are another group that has the potential to be skilled communicator, but they are lacking in certain skills. So the teacher can then provide more targeted intervention to say that, hey, maybe for this group, I still need to develop them in this way to really push them to be a skilled communicator. Yeah, so that's why when we look at analytics, it's really about personalizing the learning and providing really data-driven precision intervention. So coming to Gary's problem, okay, that is the other pilot that we are doing. I don't have the chart here to show you, but what we did with this school, they have the past 8 years of their SA1, that means the semestral assessment scores. Yeah, so the mid-year score, exam score, and the end-of-year exam score, and they tag it all the way down to every single question. So question 1 is for fraction, fraction 2 is for whole number, 1 is length, 1 is for weight. Yeah. So with that 8 years of data, we pump it into this analytics system. So what it can show are correlations. So one of the things that was showed up was, okay, this cohort, there is this group of students that are weak in length. Okay, this one, any Excel spreadsheet can show that. Okay, so what most teachers would do is, oh, okay, you're weak in length, let me remediate you on length. Okay, but what this analytics tool can do is to show you correlation. So for this group that are weak in length, hey, actually in the last year when they were learning weight, they were also weak in weight. And then when the teacher dig deeper, they realize that, hey, weight and length has conversion. You need to convert from cm to meter, kg to gram, So they, oh, maybe conversion is the problem. Then they can again give more targeted intervention. Yeah, so for Gary's case, yeah, maybe if the teacher had intervened in that way, yeah, he would have perfected maths throughout his primary school life. All right, so.
I can be the pilot.
No, in fact, yeah, Microsoft, you are now helping this company to sell this tool overseas. You see, now we know why he's promoting this tool now. All right, so these are some of the ways that we are using analytics. Yeah, so for adult learning, we feel that analytics is one of the tools that you can use also, because you all are learning and development professionals, yeah. So let's say if you're a training provider, it could be about, putting together, so let's say this tool, you can put together your survey, your evaluation results, information about your trainers, about your participants, and maybe you can see, which are the courses that are maybe more popular, then maybe which are the type of trainer that are more popular as well, and then you can see how you might want to redesign your course based on based on some of these numbers that you are looking at. All right, so learning analytics is something that really you can use whether it is primary school, secondary school. In fact, we are also trialing this with Republic Poly. Yeah, to look at their lecturer as well as the student correlation as well. Okay, so that's on analytics. Okay, this is another trial that we did with Science Center. Okay, we call it the Smart Learning Spaces. Okay, in this trial, okay, we were doing it at the Brain Exhibition in Science Center. So as you can imagine, Science Center, the Brain Exhibit, because it's a very chim subject, right? Yeah, so you see a lot of boards, with a lot of writing, yeah. So especially the primary school kids, they will walk in and then they just come out already lah. Yeah. So the thing is, because there's so much information, it's actually very good, but too much information that it cannot engage the younger children. So what we did was we put various beacons around the exhibit. So what the beacon does is, as you move through with a device, it detects that you are there. Okay, so just imagine this is let's say this is a primary school kid. Okay, when he walks in, okay, he does need to download this app lah. After he downloads the app, firstly he chooses that I'm a primary school student. Okay, so because I'm a primary school student, the information that is pushed to me will be contextualized to a primary school kid. Okay, then it could give me something that is more challenge-based. Ask me to go around the exhibit to look for information to be able to answer the question. And as I answer the questions, I will collect badges. Yeah. But let's say if I'm a secondary school kid, as I go around, I'm not the challenge type one lah. I don't want to collect badges, so lame, Yeah. So then I will give you more information that is related to your curriculum because you're learning that in your biology. Yeah. So it can again give you differentiated type of content, and it's more participatory because it allows you to interact, to find out information put the information into the app, and it makes it more engaging for them rather than just going through to read all the boards. Okay, and yeah, lastly, workplace-based learning. Okay, for this we also have various trials. One of it is with Republic Poly, and later Mr. Ho, he will then share more about our trial on internship workplace-based learning. Okay, but I thought I'll just share a few points about workplace-based learning. Okay, I was also looking at some of these reports out there. Okay, and towards maturity is one of the, it has very good findings. So you can, the URL is there, but you can also bing towards maturity, and you should be able to find it. It works. I tried it. Yeah. So so towards maturity, they are a non-profit organization that does research on learning and development in workplace. Okay, and they try and see, what are some of the trends and good practices, and also the impact of learning technologies. Okay, so I'll just share some of the findings from there. So, so really, they were trying to show, what are some of the things that a learning and development profession should look into. Yeah, so these are some of the questions that they were also prompting, the L&D, integrating learning and work. Yeah, so they have, so their findings here are done through this benchmark report that they do. They do this annually, and most of the companies that respond to this are UK companies, but they also have some Europe countries and Asia. I noticed Singapore is in there as well. Yeah, but probably not a lot. Yeah, so it is really from all these findings that they come up with all these data. So it's useful to see for reference. Okay, so really the questions are around, are L&D integrating learning and work? Do they understand their customers, their learners? Okay, and are L&D thinking about some technology strategies? And in fact, are the L&D team ready for change? Do you also have to upskill to be prepared for the future of learning? I guess when they talk about future of learning, they're also looking at the workplace being, more flexible, more mobile. Yeah, so really, what are some of the strategies that we should look into? Yeah, so these are some of the suggestions that they have. So, from the report, it seems like there's a wave of increasing training budget. I'm not too sure about that in Singapore. Yeah, but there seems to be this optimism that we should put in more learning and development. So ride on that wave. So really look at how learning can help to impact business performances. Also try to understand your learners, how they learn. Okay, put in some plan how you can use technology for the business advantage. And really, they also encourage that the L&D team need to upskill to be able to prepare yourself to propose some of these strategies. Yeah, I extracted this one because I thought these were quite interesting, especially in looking at providing L&D for a very increasingly mobile workforce. Yeah, so this one, it shows numbers like, more than 50%, they like to actually access resources, work-related resources on the go, and even on their own devices. And they do it while traveling. Yeah, this part I thought was quite interesting, so 42% assess it at the point where they need it most, which is, not surprising, but at the same time, it's the same percentage, that also assesses it in the evenings and weekends, so people do work, after the office hours. So even during lunch break and on the way to work. So really there is, the learners, they are keen to assess information. And they also look at what they call the top deck organizations. These are the top quartile organizations that really, they do have very good learning practices. So these are some of their findings. 73% offer micro content of 10 minutes or less. Yeah, so it's really bite-sized content. And they have a strategy to curate good content and show some structure so that the staff know when they look at this content, how does it relate to my work. And very high percentage actually looks at using best practices video. So really video is one of a very powerful tool as well. Okay, yeah, I wouldn't elaborate on this, but really it is about looking at how you can use technology to improve connections, allowing people to find the experts within their organization. Looking at how to support the performance when they need it. That's why the micro content is very useful. Also harnessing the technology. I think especially Singapore, a lot of us are holding smartphones, so let's try and leverage that. And also adapting the content to encourage the learners to even come up with the content themselves and share it. Okay, yes, with that, okay, I shall now pass to Mr. Ho, to share more about the internship workplace-based learning. Okay.
Thank you, Hu Hui, for a very animated discussion. Got me all excited, you know. I wish I was a small kid now, playing with the, doing visual programming.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. My name is Ho Chi Wai. I'm glad I can use my name because when the organizer passed me this tag, I thought I was supposed to introduce myself as Mr. Speaker. Okay, I'm Ho Chi Wai. So I'm from Republic Polytechnic. Republic Polytechnic, one of the 5 polys in Singapore. We are located up in the north. And we support about 14,000 students in a very beautiful campus, totally air-conditioned. If you have a chance, do visit. Yeah? Okay, we have 7 schools, right? Sports, health and leisure, management and communications, technology for the arts, hospitality, applied sciences, engineering, and of course the best school is the School of Infocom, yeah? The best school. Okay, so 7 schools offer about over 42 diplomas. Yeah, so that's a quick introduction to Republic Poly. School of Infocom, we have about 3,000 students, 7 diplomas, and one of our key graduation criteria is really a 20-week internship stint, right? And when students go for internship, they do face a lot of challenges. And one day, IDA very kindly approached us and said that, why don't we try to help the students have a more meaningful and fruitful internship. And then we were saying that, how do you propose to do that? And they said that, well, you know, the handphone is a device that probably everybody owns, including polytechnic students. Why don't we try to capitalize on the ubiquity of this device to help the students, right, perform better at the internship? So we sat down and then and thought about it. But actually, internship isn't just about the interns, right? Of course, the interns is our centerpiece. So when we think about it, okay, what can this app do for us? So firstly, we're thinking, it'd be great if this app can be a one-stop access to a contextualized content. So contextualized content, I think this word has been brought up a couple of times on Gary as well as Hui Hui. Fact of the matter is, when an intern joins a company, the company expects them to hit the ground running, right? So you say you are a polytechnic graduate, you are equipped with practical skills to work as a professional, right? And as an intern, you expect to prove that to me, right? And a lot of interns also want to perform well in internship because increasingly you find that companies are actually making use of internship opportunities to evaluate future employees. Several of my students were actually offered jobs, full-time jobs, during the course of internship. right? So if we can help the students to perform well during internship, right, it's a win for the company, a win for the student. Okay. For the company, right, 20 weeks is not a very long time. And if we can help the companies to integrate and board the interns quickly, then the interns can be productive faster. Right, that's good for the interns as well as good for the company. Yeah? And was thinking, can we make use of the device to act as an additional channel to coach the interns? Because you find that many poly students actually perform internship at SME, small and medium enterprises. Now the staff strength can be as small as 3 or can be as big as a couple hundred. But more often than not, I realize that it's normally between maybe 10 to 15. So you find that the supervisors a lot of times are going out there doing sales, visiting clients, and the interns are left alone in the office. How do they communicate? Like if we can have a device, have a platform that enables the very busy supervisor to help coach the student through an alternative channel, that would be really great. And of course, you know, it doesn't mean that when the students are internship, we don't care about them. In fact, we are very, very concerned about their welfare, about whether they are having a fruitful experience. So we're thinking if there is a way for us to use the device to monitor the students more closely and also use that as a channel to reinforce learning. Because for many of our students, this is their first time working in a professional environment. So whatever skills and knowledge they picked up in school, they may not be able to apply it directly. And that's where the school can come in and give them advice in the background, in a subtle manner, all right? And tell them, maybe these are some areas that you want to look into. But in order for us to do that, we must have that communications channel with the student. And if you can make use of a mobile device, a platform that's running on a mobile device to do that, that would really be great. Okay, so with that as a background, what do you think are the features we want to have in such an application that enable us to address those challenges? Okay, so we say, well, push learning from the polytechnic, because I think both Gary and Hui has highlighted. Okay, very often when it's learn as you need it, so it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what is being required up front. So we need to respond to the requirements on the ground, what are the things that's happening on the ground, and then at the opportune time, push out learning materials to our interns. Okay? And then company-specific learning, because fact of the matter is every company have their own standards, have their own protocol. So if the companies can work together with the school to deploy some useful reference and learning materials for the interns, you help them to get on board faster, to be productive faster. Yeah. Contextualize contents and resources. This is related to push learning, right? Because as the interns progress through their internship, they will face certain challenges. For example, right, we might tell them, in a typical IT company, what is the etiquette that you want to follow. Now, sometimes when you brief the students in the LT, you tell them, oh, in an office setting, these are the things you need to observe, right? It's not acceptable behavior in certain companies to watch YouTube videos during work hour, even though you might say that this actually helps you to be more productive. But when you tell students in an LT setting in school, right, some are not listening. But even for those that are listening, their minds are actually not open to the message. But it is only at the workplace, right, when they're facing deadlines and when they are being treated as professionals, and then you tell them, as a professional, this is how you should behave. Okay? So the message is actually much more impactful and meaningful and relevant to the student. And that this idea relates very closely to what Gary and Ho Chi Wai has talked about, just-in-time learning. So the material may be there, but you want to push it out to the student at the relevant time. Yeah. And timing is actually part of context. You present something to someone at the right time, that is actually presenting it in a correct context in a sense. Okay? Another example will be IT project proposal writing. Same thing. You tell the students in electric data, during the course of internship, you will need to write an IT project proposal, and this is how you do it. But the thing is, they're not doing internship at that time. So, again, the message may not really sink in, the contents may not really sink in. But when they are at the workplace and they're being tasked to do it, and we push out the content to them, that's where they find it very relevant and very useful. Of course, self-help quizzes. So when we push out content to them, we also ask them some interesting questions and to see whether they have been able to absorb the critical ideas behind the materials that's been provided. Right? This is not to test them. We always emphasize the students, right? Take this in a positive manner, right? It's just to reinforce your learning and understanding. Okay. And we also wanted a feature that enable the students to easily write weekly logs to share the experience with the school liaison officer, that means the school staff, as well as the company supervisor. All right, using a platform they are very comfortable with, and where also privacy is ensured. Okay, right. So, how do all these features work? Maybe rather a video says 1,000 words. Why don't I just show you a video of how MIB at work is like? Okay, just give me a sec while I set this up. Now, in the interest of time, I'm just going to fast forward directly to the demonstration and skip the background-related stuff which I've already talked about.
Where interns and supervisors can instantly interact with each other in discussion wherever they are. As mentioned earlier on, we offer contextualized learning, where students can select the relevant academic topics based on their interests to appear on their feed. This will thus lead you to the homepage, where you are welcome with reading materials in the form of slides or even short articles which are daily. With a sort of fingers, explore the various reading materials and keep yourself in check with interesting content specially curated just for you. Besides contextualized learning, progress monitoring is also available, where students, supervisors, and tutors can interact in assignments and polls, send out short texts to respective personnel, and even include emojis, as well as images to explain and communicate your assignments more visually. We also provide interns with useful tips and pointers, where they are given guidance on professional etiquette through self-check quizzes and tips. This acts as preparation for work. We can show them tips on generating project proposal ideas in the form of videos. After watching the videos, the students will attempt quizzes and generate their results, thus showing the allocated scores. And last but not least, workplace-specific learning is able to occur as an introduction to respective internship companies, and quizzes are shown to onboard interns during their span of their internship. This allows students to prepare before they enter their companies. Hope you enjoyed this video, and this is brought to you by Republic Polytechnic, COSPAD, and Infocom Development Authority of Singapore. Thank you.
So at the end, they mentioned IDA, Republic Polytechnic, and COSPAD. COSPAD is actually the vendor that provided the software to host all the contents for our interns. Right? So let me now go back to the presentation mode and share a little bit more some of the features that was highlighted very quickly in the video. So MIB at Work is a mobile application, runs on both Android and Apple devices, right? There is security, okay? Every student, staff, as well as a company supervisor who opts to join our pilot scheme, have logged in, right? So after they sign in, they can access a host of features. Now I talk about company-specific material. If the company chooses to do so, right, they can actually deploy company-specific materials for the interns to study. Okay, one example will be from the one of our key internship partners, Integrated Health Information Systems. So here you have like a brief introduction to the company, and then of course they also include a small quiz to see if they have understood what are the key messages that the company was trying to tell them. Now this one, all right, privacy is ensured. It means that through the platform, only the IHIS interns can access this material. An intern doing internship, let's say in Essential, will not be able to see this. So companies that deploy material on this platform, right, can rest assured, right, their IP, their intellectual property is protected. So in this case, you find that this is really nothing special, information they can dig out from internet. But actually, IHIS have deployed more confidential material on our MIB at Work platform for our interns to go through. Okay, so any material you put up on MIB at Work, you can include some quizzes, right, to see if the intern has been able to absorb the key messages that have been conveyed through the materials. Okay, again, you know, we always assure the students, this is just to reinforce understanding. It is not really a test. Okay, of course, we can also push out generic materials to all our interns, and you know, on a mobile device, it is not practical to put up a 1-hour video. So through MIB at Work, we can break up a relatively complicated topic like writing a project proposal into multiple lessons. So this is bite-sized learning for a relatively complicated topic. So when the intern is on his way to work, he can maybe take a look. Okay, how do I write a smart proposal? So this is just something that you can finish in maybe 5-10 minutes. Right? Then we have a small quiz at the end of this particular lesson, and then you know, okay, what are the key points I need to take away? And when they are ready, and when they feel that, okay, I can move on, they can go to the next lesson. Right? How would you describe the company in a project proposal? So that way, it doesn't become very intimidating, where you have like, you know, a 60, 70 page document on how to write a project proposal. Okay. All right, and then we also have a weekly discussion and a sharing feature. So in this case, right, the intern can say, okay, what have I done for the week? And then the staff can comment, right? Give some words of encouragement. Now, it actually giving some words of encouragement and some small bits of advice to students means a lot to them. Because this is the first time they're working as professionals. So if you're able to encourage them, right, maybe give them some hints on how they can perhaps do better in their internship, right? The students really appreciate it. And this is not really limited to the school staff, right? If the company supervisor chooses to do so, he can also opt to have an account at MIB at work and give additional inputs. Now, privacy is assured because if a student writes something in the weekly log, only himself, the supervisor, and the school liaison officer can see it. Right? Other students cannot see it. Other company supervisors cannot see it. All right? And all this information is archived. And over the long run, we can actually perform some useful analysis on what are the challenges that the interns face when they're doing internship. Right? Some of you might be thinking, this is no different from a WhatsApp group, right? I just started a WhatsApp group with my student and me, and then we can chat. True, but don't forget, if you do things on WhatsApp, the data doesn't belong to you. It's stored out there. But here, the data belongs to us, right? Okay, so who took part in the pilot? All right, basically, the pilot was done mainly by the School of Infocom students, 760 plus students over 2 semesters, involving 90 plus school staff and a number of company supervisors as well. And then we also introduced this app to School of Hospitality students, 90 plus, and they also involve another more than 10 School of Hospitality staff. Okay. So what do the students think? Now for a pilot, right, for a relatively new initiative, actually I think we got some very positive results. Right, the students definitely think that through this app they are better prepared for internship. Okay, they feel that they are more efficient at work, and it helps to improve the skills they have picked up in school. All right. So currently we are working together with COSPAD and IDA to analyze the results and make improvements to the app. So that's MIB at work in a nutshell. Okay, so mainly to enrich the students' internship experience using easy, digestible, bite-sized information. And as we push out information to them, right, we want to reinforce their learning journey through supervisor and peer feedback. And we want to do all this in a platform that the new generation is very familiar with, which is the mobile device. All right? So that's MIB at work in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Hello, hi, good morning everyone. Okay, like Gary, it's been a while since I spoke to a group such a large size. But unlike Hui Hui, I'm not so animated, and I think I better hide here so you don't see my legs are shaking. So, okay, but I'm aware that we're running behind time, so I'll try to go through this in a fast trot. And also because I think some of what I had wanted to share a little bit about has been covered to varying degrees by Gary and Hui Hui, and as well as Ho Chi Wai. Okay, so I'm actually from the Institute for Adult Learning, which is actually part of the Workforce Development Agency. Okay, so really I'm very happy and privileged today to be able to have this opportunity to come and share with you IAL's steps and baby efforts in trying to partner enterprises as well as training providers to really go into the area of workplace learning, or what we actually quite intentionally call learning at work. Because I think later on I will share with you that actually while we talk about workplace learning a lot and we use this term very intuitively, there's actually a very varied understanding of what it really means. Okay, and this has been proven many times over in our interactions with different enterprises. Okay, right from the kopitiam, tauke to the CEO of larger companies. Okay, so I think even before we really talk about all the exciting possibilities that I think technology has afforded us, maybe it's also quite useful to take a step back and really revisit some of the fundamentals. Okay, just because I think practically speaking, while we are all very excited by all the possibilities that our previous speakers have shown us, actually the reality for a lot of enterprises out there is that they don't really have a lot of access to all these exciting technology possibilities yet. Okay, so for many of them, workplace learning might take a much plainer form. Okay, but I think this is a very useful starting point nonetheless to engage them, because it's something that they don't find so intimidating, so forbidding in terms of investment in resource and cost and etc. Okay, so when I talk about workplace learning, many of the enterprises that I interact with will tell me that of course we do workplace learning. Okay, we send staff for training, especially WSQ training. Okay, so they will highlight that because they know where we are from, lah. Okay, so but really, I think the reality for most of us is that if you ask and think back, whether you are able to really recall a particular training that you went for that was completely transformative, changed your life, made you a better worker, got you a bonus as a result of it, chances are not. Okay, so unfortunately, I think most of the training that we experience today, and possibly more, I would say, in the CET sector, because there were a lot of exciting examples that was shared that was more in the PT sector. Okay, but most of the CET sector type of training that we are privy to still tends to be something that takes us out of work, and tends to be quite assessment driven, because usually people go through it for the purpose of certification, for the purpose of assessment, and the focus of the learners is very much, on what can help me to clear my assessment. And even after they have cleared assessment, it is a huge assumption that we are making that just because they have been given a C, declared competent, means that they are able to apply the same skill sets back in the workplace. But we know for a fact that that's not the case, or the assumed transfer of learning is not so neat. But yet there is actually precious time, for these people to be taken out of work, but the returns of the investment of training is actually usually not so high. But still we rely on it because it is accessible, it is trackable. It's something that I can very clearly say, look, I develop my staff, I send them for training. Now another way that a lot of us experience learning, of course, is through e-learning. And the kind of e-learning that I talk about is perhaps quite different from, again, some of the very exciting examples that has been showcased today. But for most of us, our interaction with e-learning, again, might be more PowerPoint driven. And I noticed that this slide puts quite a nice homage on Microsoft, which I'm a big fan of. So, hopefully I can score some brownie points and maybe get a set of that HoloLens later. But really, honestly speaking, I think that PowerPoint and Word has great potential, and we often underutilize it. It's not the reason why our e-learning is so boring. But really, I think most of us, our experience of e-learning is still very much PDF docs, or PowerPoints, where we have to do a lot of clicking, just to be sure that back end, the big data is tracking that we have completed the e-learning. But really, again, is that really learning? And I think more importantly, is that really learning for work? So those are some of the key questions that I think we need to ask ourselves. So really at the end of the day then, what exactly is workplace learning? Because I started the presentation talking about the importance of having some common understanding, and in a way that can resonate right down from the kopitiam tauke to the CEO in larger companies. So just allow me to show you a short video where I think we have tried to deconstruct workplace learning down to something that hopefully is a bit more relatable.
Workplace learning. It's not about sending staff for classroom training and disrupting operations. We all know how painful that is.
Where you go, so many customers give me headache. Ay, so many headache. I cannot take it.
Neither is it about dumping training manuals on staff for them to figure out on their own. More importantly, workplace learning is not something you can turn on and off like a switch. In fact, the best part about workplace learning is that it is already happening every day. So what then is workplace learning? Well, it is simply learning at work. Like when we observe others working. Ask questions.
Have you submitted your proposal? Why is it taking so long? Tell me!
Get feedback.
You suck! Jane, you suck!
And trade war stories and tricks of the trade with your colleagues over a cuppa. The million-dollar question is, how effective is the learning in your organization? Cultivating learning at work is just like growing a plant. The trick is to give it just enough water. Too much water, and it drowns. No water, and it dies. So, organizations play a key role to ensure that learning at work is in top shape. Like me. But it doesn't mean employees simply sit back and wait for learning to happen for them. Done well, workplace learning benefits both the employee and employer. And when staff are learning all the time, they are more likely to grow and stay. And they will also look out for new and better ways of doing things. This way, the organization is much more ready to stay ahead of the competition. So effective workplace learning really means fewer disruptions at work. In fact, work is the learning and learning is the work. So remember, learning at work makes a difference for your business, for your people today.
Okay, so usually this video goes down quite well, because it's got a nice vernacular flavor, and I find that the enterprises are able to relate it to it better. But really, I think there are some important and serious messages there. Again, nothing new, I would highlight. But unfortunately, maybe because of the way the broader system has evolved, we don't tend to see a lot of those things that are featured in the video, like talking with our colleagues, even just chit-chatting over coffee, but consciously talking about work, giving feedback. These are all very good examples of workplace learning. Requires minimal investment and is already a part of the natural behavior of the workplace. But the problem is really how well it's actually done and whether there is a better way of doing it so that the organization and individuals get better mileage out of it. So I think really, like I mentioned, the first two modes of learning, or what we seem to think is workplace learning, classroom training as well as e-learning, the main problem is that they are not so tightly related to work. So I think that's why when you talk about really the key message of workplace learning, this whole idea of learning at work, for work, through work becomes very important. Okay, so then I usually like to approach it from the angle of workplace learning being a new, in a way, a different animal for us. So maybe it's perhaps easier to define it in terms of what it really isn't. Okay, so like I mentioned in the video, it's not just classroom training. But having said that, those of you who are a bit more familiar with IL, you'll recognize that actually classroom training forms quite a bread and butter and probably pays a bit of my paycheck too. So I'm not saying that, there's no more room for classroom training. In fact, there will always be a room for classroom training. Okay, just because there are certain procedural knowledge that's actually better taught in a classroom. Okay, just because maybe sometimes the workplace is not so conducive, and that strong theoretical understanding can actually be built up better in the classroom. Okay, but the problem only comes in when it's just about classroom. Okay, and certainly workplace learning shouldn't always be mandated by the bosses, just because the bosses themselves might not always be the best place to know what exactly are the competencies and skill sets that workers need in order to perform in their jobs. Okay, and I think this has again been proven in many of our interactions with enterprises. Okay, so maybe just to share a quick anecdote, as part of our work to engage enterprises to look into workplace learning, we actually developed a diagnostic instrument that we will first get the staff of the company to participate in. The purpose of the instrument is really to understand, so how do you currently learn at work? What kind of activities do you engage in order to learn what you need to do your job? Okay, there was one particular company where usually most of the companies that we worked with, one of the methods that they will rate the most highly is, I work best through doing the work itself. Okay, and that's something which seems to be such a no-brainer, okay, but I think it surprises actually quite a lot of people, okay, because again, those things that we invest a lot of money and that we track actively, things like training, e-learning, doesn't actually feature in the survey responses. So for this particular company, one of their highest rated items was actually COPs, okay, communities of practice, which was actually quite a surprise to us because while we included that as one of the workplace learning methods, we did not actually think that it would be commonly used in many of these companies. Okay, especially this particular SME. Okay, so we were very curious and we presented the findings to the boss. They said, really, meh? Huh? So we had to do a bit of a further drilling down. And it turns out that what the staff had actually rated as COPs when we actually talked to them in further depth was, oh, you mean that COP? Actually, when I rated COP, right, I just talked with my colleagues over smoke break, then we just talked about the work. Okay, and that was the idea of COPs, which is perfectly fine. Okay, because really we shouldn't be locked into a paradigm where COPs means everybody gather together in a training room. It's very structured and facilitated. Everybody take turns to discuss and we share. Okay, it can be something as simple as the fact is your staff are already exchanging important, knowledge nuggets over smoke breaks, over coffee breaks. Okay, but we are not aware that that kind of learning is happening, and it is happening in spite of whatever the company is doing or not doing. So I think the onus is really now for the company to really think about how to harness more of that knowledge out of all these informal practices that are already happening. So then we go into talk into things like knowledge codification and management, because actually there is a lot of knowledge within the company, especially among the senior workers. So a lot of the struggles of the enterprises is how do we then actually extract and codify that knowledge so that even when these senior workers retire and leave the company, that knowledge is actually not lost. So these are some of the very practical daily struggles that enterprises have. And that's the kind of a difference that we hope to make when we talk about workplace learning to these companies. Okay, so like I mentioned, again, of course, because it's about work, so it shouldn't be just about theory, and certainly it mustn't be disruptive of normal work activities. So I think a very large part of the impetus towards embracing workplace learning is just because SMEs are really crying out for the fact that, the manpower crunch is getting near impossible to sending my staff out for training. So the best scenario is that the training can happen at the workplace. Okay? And of course, like I mentioned, when you talk about doing workplace learning, in fact, the transfer of learning should be minimal in the sense of the extra work that the learner still needs to do to contextualize the learning. Okay? Because everything, whatever learning is happening through the work.